Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint Germain family. As you can see by the title, by the thumbnail, we're set to discuss even more injuries at Paris Saint Germain. So, let's jump into the reports. First of all, it's this news around Joao Neves. Official Joao Neves is set to return to Paris as he's not fit enough to participate in the October international break. The Portuguese Federation announced via press release. And it was really questionable for Joao Neves to go to the Portuguese national team, not having featured, I believe, in the Auxerre game, the FC Barcelona game, nor in the last game versus Lille. So it was surprising to every PSG fan seeing that he went to Portugal to participate for the international break. But he is already back. Basically, he went in, they had a medical exam, and then he went back. I just don't understand why Paris Saint Germain cannot just say to the Portuguese national team, here's the medical explanation, he's not good enough, why would he have to travel? But instead, Neves travels all the way there and then has to come back. So no new injury. It's not they found something really bad or negative and sent him back. It's just he's not fit enough, which we obviously knew before. And then it's Bardley Barcola. Just seen Bardley Barcola is set to return to PSG as he suffers from a chronic injury in the right thigh, sustained in the game versus Atalanta in late September. Is this what Paris Saint Germain say? No. This is what the French Federation says. But Bardley Barcola has also returned from international break. Official Bardley Barcola is out for the October international break, the French Federation announced via press recently. And the Paris Saint Germain slapped back at them. And we've discussed the negative relationship at the moment between Paris Saint Germain and the French Federation. Official PSG releases a statement regarding Bardley Barcola's injury assessment by the medical staff of the national team, denouncing that the player's injury is chronic and dates back to the game versus Atalanta, and calls out the French Football Federation's miscommunication. Paris Saint Germain read with amazement the press release published by the French Football Federation on Monday, October the 6th on Bardley Barcola's state of health. The information published in this press release does not correspond in any way to the medical information communicated by the Paris Saint Germain medical teams. Upstream of the rally and the following match of the 7th day of Ligue 1 against Lille, Paris Saint Germain sent to the French team a medical checkup of Bardley Barcola, in no way indicating a chronic injury after the match against Atalanta. Paris Saint Germain also insists that medical confidentiality must be respected for all of the good parties. So Paris Saint Germain, their beef with the French national team just continues. I mean, Warren wasn't sent, no Dembele, no Doue, only Barcola, and we're still having problem with the French Federation. So Bardley Barcola is returning, and he obviously participated in the Lille game and the FC Barcelona game and the Auxerre game, coming off the bench for Paris Saint Germain. So honestly, when I see this, I look at it more positive. He doesn't have to go and start both games for France in two unimportant, completely irrelevant games. And instead, he can come to Paris, train with the team, and get a little bit of a vacation and a break. And lastly but not least, another one. Senny Mayulu is injured as he's suffering from a left thigh injury. The Frenchman has left the French under-21 camp and returned back to the club. So Senny Mayulu is also, and I just want to double check, is this the same stuff he had before? Because Senny Mayulu obviously came back injured into the season. Let's see. Senny Mayulu participated collective training session yesterday, but coaching staff made the decision to avoid taking a risk. Senny Mayulu recovered after his adductor injury. Okay, so I think it's a different injury. But yeah, Senny Mayulu obviously has played a lot of minutes ever since coming back from injury, and bop, another injury to Senny Mayulu. Before we go into all the injured players and having an assessment about them, the first news to go here is Mayulu came back, Neves came back, and Bardley Barcola came back. But I want to take a look at this report. I have talked about this before, and I want to talk about it again. The annual report from FIFA Pro, the Global Players Union, highlights, among other things, that lack of recovery in time for a club like PSG may have contributed to the wave of injuries currently in the Parisians. Like all those who participated in the Club World Cup, the players faced particularly harmful weather conditions, as a result, So let's take a look at this picture right here. This is from FIFA Pro. On the left side is vacation. It's days you have nothing to do with the team. And as you can see, Paris Saint Germain, these are obviously the clubs with the least minimum as well, close to PSG, all of them playing in the Club World Cup. Paris Saint Germain, 22 days of vacation. Chelsea, 20. Madrid, 20. City, 25. You're like, not the worst. We're just the same as them. Why do we have so many injuries? Well, it's this. This is training. So you have the Club World Cup final versus Chelsea ended. You had 22 days vacation. And as you can see, only 7 days of training. And then we had the UEFA Super Cup, which was a high-intensity game, unlike these teams who played a game in their respective leagues and so on. 7 days compared to 13 and 19 and 19. If you add it up, 29 days of rest and training for Paris Saint Germain between the Club World Cup final and the UEFA Super Cup final versus Spurs. For Chelsea, 33. Madrid more, City more. So Paris Saint Germain, this is the main reason of the injuries. It's actually two. I don't think the players have been overplayed. Because last season we had so many players play so many games and it didn't lead to any injuries. So I don't think it's the players playing too many games. I don't think it's that. What I think it is, Paris Saint Germain play at really high intensity, both in the training session and on the actual pitch. And what that means is when you haven't trained intensity for a while, you got to get back to it. And that has been Paris Saint-Germain's biggest problem. We played high intensity throughout the entire season, jumped into the Club World Cup with high intensity. And then, that's the thing, these teams didn't go to the Champions League final. These teams didn't nearly go in their season unbeaten and win their domestic cup. None of these teams did that, and these are the closest to us. So that's the position Paris Saint-Germain are in. And then it's the back. 7 days of training. That is the biggest deficit when it comes to all of these numbers. Paris Saint-Germain, let's take Joao Neves as an example. He's chilling in his vacation. Then he comes to training to up his intensity level, but it's way too soon. And that has been the major problem for Paris Saint-Germain. The vacation and the training just wasn't enough. We wanted to postpone the league end season. We maybe tried to postpone the UEFA Super Cup, but that could not happen. And that is the major reason for these injuries. But that's also why I'm not worried for the rest of this season. These injuries are coming up now when you're going back into, when you're playing high intensity football once again. We would not have this problem in February. We would not have this problem in April in the big knockout stage games when the league will be decided, domestic cups will be decided, and the Champions League will be decided. Paris Saint-Germain would not have this problem. We could potentially have this problem next season if it's not the longest break after the World Cup, because a lot of our players will be performing at the World Cup and will be playing for the teams that are going to go really far. So we maybe could have this problem at the beginning of the season once again. Next season, we've seen a little bit similar. You could maybe say it FC Barcelona, because they also play high intensity football, but they obviously didn't play the Club World Cup. They had much longer vacation and they had an actual preseason, playing Como, playing in Asia. But Paris Saint-Germain didn't have a preseason. We called the big game versus Barca preseason, the game versus Atalanta preseason, because we've not had a preseason. We could not get up to the level. Spurs, for example, that we played in the UEFA Super Cup final, as you can see, Paris Saint-Germain had 7 days of training before that game. Spurs, on the other hand, had 7 preseason games ahead of that game. So that's why I'm not that worried about these injuries, but we'll talk briefly about all of the injuries. These two are fit. Marquinhos obviously injured, and I think this is just a recurring thing. He's getting older. I think Marquinhos is a bit different thing. It could still be the intensity thing, but I think it's also getting with age and so on. I'm predicting Marquinhos to be back around 25th of October, 20 to 25th, maybe even, towards the end, the 30th of October. Next up is Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. He's obviously been selected for the Georgian national team. I didn't like to read that news, but the the thing that I understand with Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, Georgia, his national team, are pushing for the World Cup. And Khvicha is absolutely huge. He's their only star in that team. They obviously have Mikawetse, they have Mamaratashvili, they have a lot of great players, but Kvara needs to be there for these two upcoming games. So I understand that from Georgia, but Paris Saint-Germain have discussed with the Georgian national team. I think their manager is Signol. He's a French... He's a French dude as well, managing Georgia, and he has said, he will take care of Kvara, so nothing happens, because we need Kvara back. Fabian Ruiz obviously hasn't played in the last game after the Barca game. He was not in the Lille squad, but Fabian Ruiz was not selected by the Spanish national team. So shout out to De La Fuente and the Spanish national team for giving Fabian Ruiz a little bit more time to recover and come back to his best. No injuries. Dembele obviously has been in Qatar, in Aspetar. He's been recovering there, enjoying his time, vacation. And that's another thing for these PSG players. They barely had a vacation. They barely had training. So now that they're injured, being injured doesn't mean you can't live life. They can still enjoy their vacation now. It's like they have their summer vacation now in September and at the beginning of October instead of in the summer like most players. But Ousmane Dembele should be back straight after the international break for that Strasbourg game. So I'm going with Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, Fabian Ruiz. Marquinhos is the only one that will be a little bit longer time. Same thing with Desiree Doue. He should be back in the squad for the Strasbourg game. And we should be getting some pictures and videos of the players training now in Paris in the Paris Saint Germain campus during the international break. No injuries, no injuries. Senny Mayulu, it just came out. I have nothing, no information on the Senny Mayulu stuff. It could be though, because I saw a lot of PSG fans say, oh, we're moving like Madrid. We are excluding our players from the international break so that they can get actual rest, actual training, because we have 7 games coming up in around 25 days, which will be really tough, and we need every single player. It could be that Paris Saint Germain are, you know, faking injuries or making smaller things bigger to bring them back. But I don't think Senny Mayulu is going to be that tough. He could be potentially back, you know, straight after the international break as most of the players. Same with Bardley Barcola. It doesn't look that serious. He should be back after the international break. So great for Mayulu and Barcola, getting some rest and getting some vacation now so they can come back stronger and better after the international break. And same goes with Joao Neves. Very happy that he's going to get a little bit of extra vacation, rest in Paris, train, high intensity, come back to your level, because as I mentioned, PSG versus Strasbourg, I think it's going to be played on 17th on a Friday this October. This is the game where we're looking for finally Paris Saint Germain to have a full squad. Marquinhos is the only one I don't see being in this squad, but I hope every other player is in this squad. But as I've said, there are a lot of injuries, which is just completely chaotic. I mean, this is me. Imagine Luis Enrique, how he is in his head. But honestly, none of the injuries we have suffered during this entire time have been major injuries. None of them have been really crucial. It's mostly been muscle fatigue or small hamstrings, small ligament. Nothing serious. No broken leg, no broken bone, none of that. So Paris Saint Germain, honestly, I'm very happy that we've survived, because this injury thingy is soon about to end. And we've survived it, winning both of our games in the Champions League and sitting first in the league. But I expect more from Paris Saint Germain coming after this international break. I'll be starting predicting 3-0, the 4-1s, the 4-0, the 5-0, the 6-7-0, because we need to up the level. But we've had a good preseason. The preseason was good. We beat Barca, we beat Atalanta, had a lot of fun in the league as well, won the UEFA Super Cup. So we've done what we've had to do despite everything that's happened. And I think that's the great mentality from this team. Last season, for example, I remember Arsenal having a lot of injuries and they were just complaining and using it as excuses. But Paris Saint Germain, this is the mentality of Paris Saint Germain. Despite the injuries, despite the missing players, despite the inconvenience, Paris Saint Germain still remains on the top. So I'm not that mad. I'm not that, you know, obviously what I'm mad about is the relationship between PSG and the French Federation. Let's just stop sending players there until the World Cup. You can get them boosts for the World Cup. But these qualifiers, nobody cares. And you don't deserve the Paris Saint Germain players, because you show no respect to yourself, you show no respect to the players, and you show no respect to Paris Saint Germain, the club that actually employs these players. So to finish off the video, we have so many injuries at the moment. I think 7, 8 maybe players are injured or not fit 100%, maybe 9 players, but all of them should be back for the Strasbourg game. Apart from Marquis, maybe someone else misses the game as well. That's been it from boy PSG, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and as usual, allez Paris.